our biggest power lies within. If in life there's something that truly limits us, it's our own minds. The moment we keep away from that, we keep away from the negative thoughts about and the doubts and the fears, we realize that everything starts to become a reality.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, Tina Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 213 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for being here today. I am excited that you are here. I'm excited that we are getting to go through these Eco Challenge episodes, getting to know these inspiring people and really getting to hear their story from them, not just about their experience on the world's toughest race, but also just in general, what they've been able to do, all these things that they've achieved in life and how they've inspired people. I really did my research with picking the people who I felt were going to give the best stories and give us the most inspiration. I know a lot of my episodes have been pretty heavy lately, so I hope these episodes have been helpful for you in that way. Now, I am excited to introduce you to Tashi and Nungshi Malik, and they are part of Team Khuhuri Warriors. They have won all kinds of amazing awards in their journey. I'm going to tell you about some of them in the episode, but just to wrap them up a little bit more, they've won the Nari Shakti Puraskar, which is the Women Power Award in 2020, and that's the highest award for women in India. In September 2019, they were recommended by the Sports Ministry for Padma Shri, which is India's fourth highest civilian award. They climbed Mount Everest aged 21, they were the first twins to do so, and they've completed the world's toughest race. And I'm just excited for them to see what they can do in the future, for all the women and girls that they've inspired over the years. Just a fantastic group of people. And just to remind you, if you've missed the other episodes in this series, we had Khuhuri Waltering was last Monday from Team Onyx. We had James Lawrence, who is also known as the Iron Cowboy from Team Iron Cowboy. And we also had Nathan Fave and Sophie Hart from Team New Zealand, who were the winners of the show. So if you've missed those ones, be sure to go check those out. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Athletic Greens, and we will get right to the episode with Tashi and Nungshi Malik. Thank you to Athletic Greens for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I just love Athletic Greens. I look forward to it every morning. I drink it down. It is the first thing I do. I stumble down the stairs. I go to my kitchen. I pour some water, cold water, into a tumbler. I put a scoop of Athletic Greens in there. I give it a shake, and then I drink it while I am writing my gratitude journal. How is this for multitasking? Drink it while I'm writing in my gratitude journal and pumping at the same time for some milk to give my daughter later that day. We think it's really important to not have me doing it all the time, but to involve my husband. Too much information there for you, but that is part of mum life. But that is the first thing I do. I sit and drink my Athletic Greens, and I just feels so good knowing that I'm getting 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients that work together to help the body absorb and synthesize in this highly bioavailable form. It was originally developed for athletes and high performers. Just one scoop of Athletic Greens Ultimate Daily delivers adaptogens, antioxidants, prebiotics, probiotics, and a superfood complex that's going to help your body with its nutritional needs across the 5 critical areas of health. And it's going to really support your energy, your immunity, your digestion, your recovery. This is a really comprehensive approach to nutritional support. It can replace your multivitamin. It can replace all kinds of other supplements that are taken. And it can make it easier for you to get this comprehensive nutrition without the need for multiple pills, powders, complex routines. It is really the most complete supplement for a better you. Now, in this, you get the antioxidant equivalent of 12 servings of fruits and vegetables. You are also getting the important hard to find ones that are just going straight in. The ingredients have a high level of antioxidants that can boost your immunity, which is very important the months that we're going into over the coming winter season, especially this year of all years. And I love having that peace of mind that I'm getting this comprehensive nutrition to support my lifestyle where I'm not maybe making the best choices that I should be. All right, my friends, I want to tell you about the special deal that Athletic Greens is giving my listeners. You can get a 1 year, yes, you heard that right, a 1 year supply of vitamin D3, K2 with your purchase. And I think that is critical going into the winter season. And I love that you have that taken care of. That is something you can just add 2 drops to whatever drink you're drinking and then know that you're taking care of it for the day. You can get that by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina. That's athleticgreens.com/Tina. You can learn more about Athletic Greens. You can sign up and get that special discount just for my listeners. There is a reason that Tim Ferriss says it's the most comprehensive supplement that he has. If he was to have one supplement, this would be the only one he would have. Same with Rich Roll, same with Michael Gervais, same with so many other people. I am not exaggerating in how much I love this. So go to athleticgreens.com/Tina. Tashi, Nungshi, I am so excited to talk to you both. I'm excited to introduce you to my audience for any of them who haven't met you. And so thank you for being here today. This is just awesome to be able to talk to you both.
Thank you, Tina. We are as delighted as you are and look forward to the conversations ahead because we know that you love adventure too and outdoors. So we see that there's a common ground to it. So yeah, look forward to it.
Well, actually, we can start there then. As this is a running podcast, I have to ask you before we go any further, do you like to run? Is that ever a part of your lives?
Oh, absolutely, hands down. I mean, growing up as kids, there was not a single athletic competition that we were not a part of. We aced all the 100-meter, 200, 300 relay races. It was in our blood. Running from the very beginning was something that we loved to do. And even now, although we can't cover as much distances, we still like to go out every morning, spend some time running.
That's good.
Yeah.
You passed the test, then we can officially continue our conversation. So on that note, let's just go into that a little bit more. You said you go running every morning. I assume you do that together, and you are you doing it, well, other than what's going on right now, are you doing it for races? Do you jump in running races, or is it just kind of you enjoy being out in nature and getting to experience the beginning of the day?
Well, first of all, it does not help when you are born into a military family because this becomes a part of you even though you don't want it. So one, of course, the discipline of it, the discipline aspect where all our life we've always been exposed to the outdoors. Our dad always told us no matter what exams you're appearing for, this is one thing you have to do and instill in your daily, schedule and routine. So number one, discipline. Second, we love the outdoors. Tash and I we would just give up whatever in our life to be outside, and running happens to naturally come to us. Our dad's also been a great runner in his life, and we take that trait from him.
Yeah,
and to be able to share, kind of like that space outside with your better half, is nothing better than that. We have some great conversations, fun, laughter. This is the one time that we can truly unwind from all the stresses of daily work.
But we've never done any marathons and stuff. I think it's just become more part of our training as well. We run because it helps our cardio better. We strengthen our core better through running. So I guess it's become a part of our training as well. But we haven't ran a marathon, but we'd love to. If given an opportunity, we'd actually just jump into the race and just start running, no matter how far we get.
Well, maybe we'll have to see what we can do about that. See if we can get some point, if races ever happen again over here, get you over to one of the big marathons to do that. That would be really cool to have you come to one of the races over here, because I know you have spent some time over here. So yeah, we'll see what we can do about that. To be continued. Okay, so for those listeners who do not know, I'm hoping most people listening have looked at something, even if it's just the trailer, because there's going to be all these episodes and it's just going to be full of spoiler alerts. So for anyone listening, if you haven't watched Eco Challenge World's Toughest Race, pause this episode and go listen to it now and come back. You will want to. But I want to go into your history just before we get on. And actually, most of the episode is probably going to be about before you did the Eco Challenge. But you've won all kinds of awards. The Nari Shakti Puraskar. Did I say that right?
Yeah. Puraskar, you're right. Yeah,
okay,
award.
In 2020, which is the highest award for women in India. You've been recommended by the Sports Ministry for Padma Shri, which is India's... Good, I'm getting it right. Which is India's fourth highest civilian award. You both climbed Everest. And if I read this right, at age 21...
That's right.
And were the first twins and siblings to climb Everest. And you have completed the world's toughest race. So when I say that back to you, how does that make you feel when you hear that kind of objectively from the outside, that this is all the things that we've been nominated for and achieved? It's incredible.
It's truly out of the world feeling. Honestly, when Tashi and I started climbing, we just didn't want to climb for the thrill of it, but we were inspired by a bigger cause, which is the cause of the Indian girl child. Our missions have always been about empowering more women in our country, more girls to step outside. There are numerous mountains that they have to climb to merely survive. So we wanted to, we saw climbing as a metaphor to kind of draw attention to the invisible mountains that our girls have to climb daily, of denial, exclusion, violence, and the basic human right. And so when, after all those years of having done the Explorers Grand Slam and, the world's toughest race, we truly now feel like women of substance. We do know and reckon that, our girls in our community are definitely inspired by the two of us, and they want to actually get outdoors. They want to, they want to spend more time, figuring out what it is that they love, rather than, just being pulled or drawn away from their dreams, which tends to happen a lot more. The inspirational value that our climbs have had for our girls and women in India has been the sole reason why we do it in the first place. It becomes a bigger motivation for us to keep raising our benchmark higher. And, all these accolades and awards to us is also speaking a lot about the sport, which means that it's also being recognized at that level, which for the longest time never happened. So on both fronts, it's heartwarming to see that support from our people, and especially our governments, who are now trying to hype all these achievements by women in a male-dominated sport such as mountaineering.
And I would also say the responsibility doubles. When you get such a prestigious award, then you know that your roles and responsibilities to further impact becomes, largely viewed as a must-do in the community. So, we are very thrilled that we have been able to receive such awards to be able to further continue our, love for adventure and impact lives of girls and other boys in our community.
Does that ever add any pressure, though, that you feel, wow, there's so many people watching me? Do you ever get nervous with knowing that more and more people are watching and paying attention?
We've been very mindful of our private space, the two of us. We don't get too overwhelmed by public adulation, and nor are we too stressed about it. The best thing about the two of us is that it's two of us experiencing the same thing. So at least, with more people knowing our story, the one thing that really, comes to the two of us, instantly is that people are going to recognize more women doing all sorts of different crazy things. For the longest time, women had been almost absent from the outdoor world. But now with little spurt in enthusiasm with people across India, and with also, stories about women achievers being highlighted, it just tells us a lot more about, what we are capable of doing. But at the same time, we are not too, awed or, daunted by the kind of pressure that one might feel otherwise, because we tend to really enjoy what we love doing. And I think, the likely conditions of somebody to suffer from, stresses or, get into depression, because it's very easy to fall victim to that at a young age. The two of us have, we've got a lot of mantras in life with all our travels within India that we try to use in our day-to-day basis, and it kind of helps us cope with the pressure and stresses. And we don't get too overwhelmed by that. No, we rather enjoy it and in whatever capacity that we do.
That's good. Tashi, anything else?
Well, I just say that I think, as enumerated by my sister earlier, I feel like there's obviously a pressure of its own kind, knowing that mountaineering and climbing is still not mainstreamed in India. And I would say the kind of support that we lack in terms of finances. Because, when people see what we do, they tend to think we have the finances, our life is all sorted. But it's not the case when you look at an adventure person who's just passionate about the sport and wants to create an impact. So there are obviously a lot of challenges that come within our own arena of doing things. And one of them would be finances. Because, Nash and I don't have a 9-to-5 job. So people don't realize that. And the little that we make through our talks and motivational talks around in India, half of that goes to our foundation, which then helps enable girls' dreams. So there's a lot of pressure of its own kind, but that's what we believe in. We do believe that dreams are not contingent upon sex, and dreaming is free. So I love to, dream big, and in realizing them, I think I learn more about myself and grow. And for me, it's how long I live, and not like how I live for the rest of the time that I do. So it's really interesting how we've been able to balance both the worlds, whether it's actually creating an impact through what we do and really enjoying what we do. So we really love that, and we're happy doing it. So what better way to then pursue your passion?
Absolutely. So cool. Thank you. Now, for anyone who's thinking, well, you two must just be really genetically talented. Maybe you're just gifted. You can do all these things, but I don't know if I can't. What would be your words you'd like to say to that person?
It's when the two of us started climbing mountains, we weren't sure that we were built for the sport either. Like, we went in with a lot of fears and doubts, and to us, the very beginning, I remember there were moments where we said nobody in our family has ever dared to dream this big. But once we got into it, we realized that our biggest power lies within. That if in life there's something that truly limits us, it's our own minds. The moment we keep away from that, we keep away from the negative thoughts about and the doubts and the fears, we realize that everything starts to become a reality. And we won't know this until we jump headlong into something. A lot of us are not living our dreams because we are living our fears. But I think it's time for us to innovate, to change the way we think about ourselves, because human bodies, oh my God, we are capable of achieving so much more than we actually think is possible. And, that's one thing that we would love our listeners to also know, is that when you talk about a better athlete, the best built for a mountaineer, we guys are lanky. We barely weigh 58 kilos. But when you think of all the crazy climbs we've done, nobody would ever actually put a finger and guess that it's the twins who've been to all these summits, because we don't look like mountaineers. We've had a lot of questions surrounding the right physical aspect, the mental frame, the body frame for a particular discipline. I think we overthink a lot of that without actually trying it firsthand. And I think everybody is so unique, like a thumb impression that resembles none other. So, you know best what works for you. And you're far ahead of anyone who's actually even trying. So when you think of, achieving something in your life, don't be too overwhelmed by the challenges along the way. That's just a part of it. Try to overcome that. And and I would also say, this is one question that we get, and I always look at how, like you said, adventure and outdoors, love for them is not a forceful act. If you love it, you just love it. And I think before anybody actually takes on this, it's very important they ask themselves why they're doing it, in the first place. Unless you have a deep conviction or a motivation, don't just jump headlong and just wanting to do it, because at the end of the day, you want to endure those challenges that you want to undertake. Yeah. So really ask yourself why you want to do it, because everything has a price to pay. We say that there's a very thin line between life and death when you talk of mountaineering. So you have to be aware of the circumstances and understand that, one wrong step from you could actually end your life. So yeah, you have to be very cautious about those aspects to the outdoors and adventure, especially when you're talking of extreme environment and endurance sports, You really have to question that. How do you find
peace with that, knowing that is there that fear element that you have to kind of reckon with yourself every time you go out of wow, I could not come back?
Emotionally, you'll not believe this, but emotionally, it has been a draining experience. Right from the time we set our sights on Everest, I remember our mom is very traditional in that sense. She envisioned cushy jobs for the two of us. She wanted us to have, raise families, have kids by a certain age, and none of that happened. So clearly, we were on one hand, we were aware of and mindful of mom's dreams and aspirations for the two of us, but we were also conscious about how limited our time in this world is, and how important it is therefore to follow our passion and go in the direction of our dreams. When we left for Everest, the two of us, the only thing that we remember doing before we left from home is take out a lot of stick pads and jot down our experiences, things that we wanted our parents to know. It even got to a point where we wanted them to, we shared our secrets. We told them about friends and inspiring people we had met along the way, throughout our journey across the world. And there were some charities that we wanted them to donate to. So we were not even sure that our first attempt on Everest will be successful. And on every other climb, this was a constant thing. It became our way of doing something for our parents, something neat for our parents before we left on any of these climbs. Because the truth is, you can never be certain about any of these climbs that you embark on. I mean, it could be your first and last, climb. And so we were mindful of that, and hence we always wanted our parents to know that they are very important to us as much are these mountains, and that never came in the way of our dreams. But having said that, this is also again, you question yourself, for the time that you live, what really matters to you, and we have always been determined to spend our life just feeling every moment. It's not checkbox. We're not going through life like most people do. By a certain age, they want to have a secured bank deposit. They want, they want to get married, raise kids. I was like, how is our life different than most of our girls and peers in our society? And so for us, we were, definitely, hell bent on following our passion and also living life with full intensity and vigor. And we didn't let any of those thoughts deter us from our path, which also, now looking back, we're like, what? We guys are double troubles.
In our case, I think our passion burnt brighter than our fears. So we just knew we had to go with passion and not our fears.
I love that. And isn't that how we should all be living, with following? It sounds ridiculous when you say it that way, that people don't follow their passions because of being scared of something, or I don't know. Yeah. So I think you have it the right way around there. Now, you've mentioned about your mum, and we'll talk a little bit about society in India in just a little bit. But it was very clear in the Eco Challenge TV show that your dad was a huge part of your life. And everything I've read on you, it talks about how much of an impact your dad had. They went into the story a little bit. Tell us about why your dad was such an important part of taking this journey in this life that you have.
Our dad is our first and biggest hero. Even though he served, part of his life on deployment in different parts of India during his military career, which meant he couldn't spend a lot of his time with the two of us growing up. But to cover up for all those lost years, the moment, Tash and I started climbing mountains, and in fact, he was the reason why we even got initiated into the sport, is, this vision he had. He's an ardent believer of all-round development and holistic living. And to him, the two of us, exposing ourselves to physically dangerous and mentally, challenging situations also meant that it would serve as a wake-up call for us to kind of come out of our comfort zones, because that's where life truly begins, in all honesty. So for us, to have a mentor, guru, and someone who really understands the value of life, and to instill some of those, characteristics and traits early on, and even not, just being so supportive of the fact that whatever Tash and I wanted to do in life, he would never say a no, but would always, give us a green signal, no matter how difficult or daunting that challenge was going to get. It just feels nice. How many dads actually do that? In fact,
I think we are exceptionally lucky in that sense, because Not many people know, but our father hails from a very conservative part of India, actually. And he was born after 3 sisters himself, with numerous sort of prayers by his parents, at many religious places, honestly, just wanting a son in the family.
Yeah.
And they would do that by actually, in the local tradition, the family, announces the birth of a male child, like by hitting a plate, like it's a, we call it a thali in India, but it's a plate which you hit with a spoon, and you make a sound announcing the birth of a son in the society. So it's a very, traditional.
You don't do that with a girl. Just
no,
a boy?
Boys, yeah. And he recollects, I think that's when dad actually shaped a lot of who we are today, is because he always, was given preferential treatment over his sisters. Whether it was him going to school and not his sisters, and the sisters doing much of his household work and not him. So much of like seeing all that growing up, I think dad also realized that it was important that I break that sort of stereotype. And I remember after marriage, without even having discussed with our mother, he decided that, if he did have a boy, like if our dad did have a son, they would actually adopt a girl. And if the first one would be daughter, then it's perfect, he said, So he definitely is one of those who have been a champion himself for girl empowerment. And I remember how he would share stories of him going and doing a vasectomy and announcing it to his parents that he could no more have a child, so that they don't pressurize him and force him into having a son. So yeah, I mean, he comes from a very different background, and we're just lucky that we happen to be daughters, and he actually climbed invisible mountains to help us climb the physical mountains, So we're very grateful to have him in our life.
Yeah, I'm sure he got a ton of, I mean, I can only imagine, what people would say to him for kind of trying to break that mold, especially as a man doing it. Yes. I mean, it's one thing for a woman to kind of grow up and be like, I'm going to change things, but for a man to be the one to do that, I mean, that's what's needed. But so cool to hear that. And for any dads listening to this episode, what would you like them to know about raising little girls, about how much of a role what a dad does, the things that he, paves for kids and makes them believe that they can do things, supports them when they want to do things. So it can be any age. How important is that? What would you like them to know?
Well, we would like to urge all those fathers to provide the daughters with an enabling environment. I think when we look at, women empowerment causes, when we look at, girl empowerment initiatives, for us, I think men play an equal part in triggering some of those important changes in our society. If our mom's support is gold in our society, we truly believe that dad's support is diamond, and they bear much of the weight of their daughters. So them providing enabling environment to their daughters and not, discriminating on the basic issues of growth would be very crucial in determining like how a girl is raised in the community. And which is why even with the two of us, Tash and I, we constantly try and address fathers and daughters, especially in vulnerable rural communities, to tell them how important their role is for the growth and development of their daughters. And it does make a difference when you look at a patriarchal society like ours. What men say, what they do, we tend to believe. And so, if they are more mindful of that space that a girl needs, and they join hands in enabling her environment and helping her realize her full human potential, there's no better gift than that. And so, while our dad has helped us achieve our goals and mission in life, it's equally important for other fathers to do that with their daughters, and fill the gap between the communication gap, as we like to call, because often or not we realize that girls tend to confide in their moms more, but I think it's high time that dads become an equal part of that conversation, and really build a strong bond with their daughters as they grow in their life. So.
I love that. Tashi, anything, or she summed it up pretty well?
And and even if it's in a space of like, let's say, adventure and outdoors, because I know a lot of fathers are concerned about daughters, going out, risking their lives. So I just want to reiterate that, we believe that many of the finest, human qualities, whether it's leadership or self-awareness and, just they are strengthened through outdoors and adventures. So don't stop them from taking that step. I mean, in fact, support them and be a part of their mission and, their advententures, because what better way than to have a family member taking you for hikes or like going for camping, So I think there are always fun ways to interact with your kids, whether it's a girl or a boy. And I know that girls tend to be more fearful when it comes to the outdoors and adventure. So do back them up when it comes to them going on outdoor spaces, and really make them not vulnerable to the situation, but help them through that, because you don't have to be a victim of your circumstance, and you have to make them understand that they are too not. So yeah, I mean, just support them and back them with their dreams, and no matter what dream it is, because we tell them it doesn't have to be a career later on, but then you're just helping that person become a better human. And yeah, that's the way forward, I guess.
Yes, thank you so much. Good answers, both of you. And I just want to add, for anyone listening in the US, or I guess any other country that people may be listening from, even if it may not be kind of quite as obvious in the country that you're in, of the girls shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that, or like in India, it's quite often kind of, you, like you said, get a cushy job, get married, have kids. Even if you might think, oh, America or wherever is so much more advanced than that. We don't think that, but look deeper and you will see it. I mean, I'm exposing this a lot in episodes recently, and will continue to do so, but it's still there in the US. It may not be quite as obvious and out there, but there's definitely things. I mean, even a good example is, I mean, I think I said it when I first spoke to you guys. I'm really cognizant of it now, but saying, hey guys. I mean, most of us say that a lot, hey guys, but you're talking about guys. That's right there. That is subconsciously, you are talking to a group of men when it's actually you're referring to anyone. So that's a good example of that. So think deeper, because it is there. So if you have daughters, it's important. And then, you mentioned earlier about your mum, and obviously in Indian society, what you do isn't something that most girls or women would do. So could you kind of just give a little more insight into the culture for someone who has no idea about Indian culture, and especially the challenge your mum was up against, where she's been raised in a community where she was given a lot of pressure to kind of say, why are you letting your daughters do this? This isn't what women or girls should be doing.
Yeah, well, before saying anything, I just want to say, we certainly, India is a big country, and we cannot generalize or across India, but there are, of course, traditional fears in case of girls doing something like what we do, whether it's our relatives or elders, for example, who would say to parents that if girls, lose a life or limb, who will marry them? Climbing is not a respectable activity for educated girls. So don't be crazy. People will laugh when they hear that, for such a good schooling, the twins are just climbing mountains, or, girls are climbing, no one will ever marry them. So these are the concerns that, obviously not just us, but our family sort of grew up because of the people around us as well. It's also a society. And there were the kind of fears from friends and peers who would put in our parents' mind and try to discourage us too, in the beginning, I know people were aghast. Many would even express sarcasm and the language of sound advice, which, meant to create fear in our minds. And it was honestly not until we climbed our first big mountain, like Nash and I, that we actually realized that all those fears that we were living by were so not true, because we didn't see the mountains discriminate. We were up climbing this mountain, and we realized that we were as good as half the boys in the course, and realized that we were fit to climb a mountain despite all those naysayers who said, girls aren't fit to climb, or they can't carry as much weight as the boys. That did not come true. So, I mean, I think real life examples become your sort of inspiration. And I tell people, unless you've been in that situation, you would never understand, because, it's one of those things which is, we term it as invisible, the mountains that you've to climb, the invisible mountains that you have to climb, because those are mountains that people can't see, because obviously it's within. But having conquered that mountain of fear and doubt and the naysayers, we realized that this was not true, and that if you really love doing something, you should just follow your heart and not listen to the naysayers, because at the end of the day, you want to live life for yourself. Nobody else is going to live it for you. So that's when we were able to convince Mom. We said that these were the prevalent challenges. And I know if we did fail an Everest climb, I'm sure that all those naysayers would have had a go at saying that, we were right, like you failed at it. But then at least we tried, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess it was all about these trying and errors and then succeeding and then showing the world that, well, if girls want, they can climb Mount Everest. And that's how we realized that was the power when you could believe in yourself as a girl, as a woman, then you could easily convince people around you. And that's after all these steps that we were able to convince people around us. Otherwise, mom too, she was quite worried, she's like, for 3 years, she said no to our dreams because of obviously things that she has seen in her past life and career. So she would want us to be, like my sister said, great jobs and working well and earning.
And India as such is still not an outdoor nation. Yeah. And I think up until the 80s, women were absent from the outdoor world. It was the first Indian woman who climbed Everest. Things, it just felt like the floodgates had opened for other girls to kind of get into the outdoors. And the scores of women excelling in adventure sports grew multifold. But again, it's still about proving a point, making a statement, because we haven't reached a level of recognition and acknowledgement like much of the West. Even in the West, I would say that, where you see women and, other mountaineers get into an outdoor activity, that's purely for the love of it or passion. We hardly have any professional mountaineers in India, and even if there are, they are not well-to-do, and they don't get sponsorships or support right away. So India has a long way to go when it comes to the building outdoor culture. And we have a joke, right? In India, everybody talks about scientists and doctors and the top 3 professions for a child when it's even born from the womb is either to steer them in the direction of becoming a doctor or an engineer or a pilot or something that really that people actually see value in. But what people fail to realize is that everybody is different, and they are they have different interests, they are made differently, and so they tend to limit their children's dreams by the perceptions they have about a particular profession or job. And so in our case, why we were therefore lucky is because our dad never pressurized us to score good marks. He never even, in fact, asked us our examination, numbers when we passed through our 12th grade. But one thing that he did instill was, the understanding and value of the vision of life, like the general overall overarching perspective about one's life, what really is important, if you think of the summit of a mountain, it may seem to a lot of people as a wasteful activity. What is it that they're getting out of it? There's no pot of gold on the summit. There's no, legit, you can't, it's not quantifiable. But what they fail to realize is the innumerous, lessons that we attain from a journey like that. Yeah. And we view our relationship with the mountains with a deep sense of humility. And in our eyes, walking up to the summit of any mountain is synonymous to an inner journey. And we are eternally grateful for that life, because we have really drawn a lot of strength and power and fearlessness from our, climbs around the world.
Hi friends, ready to hear about our Black-owned business of the week? I am excited to introduce you to True Laundry, and I want to thank Daryl Murphy for telling me about True Laundry. It was a business founded by 3 men, Ali B. Mohammed, Malik Salim, and Abdur Rahim Shahid. They have created these laundry products, which is laundry detergent, fabric softener, hand sanitizer, and their biggest focus is just about quality. They make it more concentrated so that you use less liquid, which is obviously going to only help in the long run. They consider themselves the most effective laundry detergent on the market. It's 4 times more concentrated, so you can use less soap. And it is just powerful, economical. It is going to be low suds, which people actually tend to be a bit skeptical about low suds, but they believe that the amount of suds does not equal the amount of cleaning power. It works with high efficiency washing machines, and it's just a great way to support another Black-owned business. And I just wanted to highlight them. So you can find them at thetrueproducts.com. That's thetrueproducts.com. And you can tell them that you heard this from me if you like. or you can just reach out and see how you could support them. This is another Black-owned business that I wanted to highlight. And go check out thetrueproducts.com to see True laundry detergent, fabric softener, and hand sanitizer.
We view our relationship with the mountains with a deep sense of humility. And in our eyes, walking up to the summit of any mountain is synonymous to an inner journey. And we are eternally grateful for that life, because we have really drawn a lot of strength and power and fearlessness from our, clients around the world. And I hope that changes for India soon. And we have budding climbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole world in many aspects. I mean, you mentioned about those careers that most people kind of value in life, but the amount of people who I meet who are in those careers who are just like punching a time card, they don't enjoy what they do, or if they do, they enjoy such a small part of it that they've spent all these years training for it, all these years just doing it and living for those slithers of time outside of that work. So, I mean, in so many ways, you have it the right way around, the amount of joy. And yes, of course, there's many moments of struggle. And like you said, those are learning moments. But I think we all need to learn a bit more about kind of saying like, stick it, like, I don't care about the status quo or what I'm being told I should be doing or shouldn't be doing, or like you said, money in a bank account. And instead, we should be finding the things that make us feel alive, like you both have done. So thank you for being role models. Yeah, not just in India, but for all of us to kind of find something in us that is that case. And yes, people will have kids and that makes it a bit more difficult, but it doesn't mean you can't go out on a weekend and find something. So, or involve them in that process. So thank you for sharing that. Now, just before we get kind of switch directions a little bit, you've both said during the challenge that doing things like this wasn't something you dreamed about from a young age. We've kind of been given insight into why that was. You instead kind of discovered it and loved it. So for anyone who's thinking, well, it's too late for me, I'm 42 years old and I've missed my window, what would you say there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, actually, we also kind of were of that belief that there is a particular time and age that one must, go and venture out, do something crazy. But no, in true honesty, everywhere we've gone, no matter where it was for our climbing pursuits, we've realized that there were men and women in their late 50s, 60s. And if you think about the oldest man to climb Everest, it's 83 years old from Japan. I was like,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, we tend to think that there has to be a right age and there has to be an appropriate time when somebody, ventures out and does crazy things. But in true honesty, there is no such thing.
I think we are only limited by what our minds are limited by. When we tell our mind that this is not possible, then it won't be possible. But the moment you tell your mind that this is, I think you build a capacity to do it. You know what I mean? You're telling your body that you can. And I guess that's why in Ash and I, we're just lucky that, we've got into fitness and stuff, because it just keeps us, I mean, we're already 29 this year, but like we feel like we're still 16 and 18 and want to do more with our life. So I guess it's just all in the mind. You have to tell your mind to constantly not give up and focus on what can be done rather than the negatives of life where you're like, this is not possible at this age. Because now we have a lot of people breaking those, stereotypes where they're like, you're old, you can't really do anything. And what is old? I mean, if you're young at heart, I mean, if you look at the scores of like people, the elderly people who are doing some crazy, insane things, whether it's salsaing their way through, America's Got Talent or whatever it is, you see that there are people who prove themselves, every time. And I don't know if it's really about proving themselves. It's just about how capable we all are as humans, no matter. And if you look at the classic example of Eco Challenge, where there was a team that comprised of people who were 65 and above. I mean, and they went past the first leg and the second and the third. I mean, it comes to showing that there is no such thing as the right age. What you need to really draw on is your strength, your inner strength, and your mind, and strengthen that, because your mind can mold your body to do whatever it is that you want it to. So trust in that. Trust in your inner strength.
So true. And I just want to add, as I just read this morning or last night when I was just doing some final things for chatting to you, that Marshall Ulrich, one of the Stray Dogs members, recently just did Badwater, which is that 146-mile run walk across the desert, right? Mm-hmm. And so, things like that. I mean, and he is at least 65. I didn't think he was the oldest one on his team, but still, there is no limit. So thank you for sharing that and making that important point, because that is really important to share. Let's go on to Eco Challenge a bit more here with, covering 671 kilometers of this rugged Fijian oceans, rivers, lakes, jungles, using dozens of kind of activities. And I'm going to ask you a few questions that I've had just from my audience members, just about the challenge in general before we go any further. But starting off, when you've got this 10-day or up to 10-day challenge, how do you pace yourself in terms of using your energy of going, you've got to keep going, you've got to keep pushing yourself, but not going too far to where, like we saw in the show, one of the team members got heat exhaustion early on and he was wrecked for days. Yeah. And at the time that happened, I don't think anyone thought they were even going to finish, let alone get going again. So how do you find that line with pacing yourself and being able to continue at a speed you need to be going at?
In all honesty, we were the underdogs, the novices of Eco Challenge, in general, the adventure racing community. So for us, everything that we did during our Eco Challenge pursuit was a miracle. I mean, there were times, I don't even think there was something, even there was this term called pacing, with our team, because we were almost the last end, the back end of the pack. We were the ones who were probably just struggling to survive and get to the first point and the next and the next. And there were moments, I think it's also relative, right? When you talk about, what are the right techniques to kind of pace yourself for such a daunting experience over, such vast experience on land, water, sea, wherever it is. So for us, it was, there were moments like even now when I think and try to recollect some of our experiences from, because I can't remember a thing. And that's perhaps because we were unconscious or semi-conscious and like zombies much of the race, just trying to really survive. For us,
but we also did not understand that, because like my sister said, this was our first adventure race. Yeah. So we went into it with a lot of questions within our own selves, like how is it going to, turn out for the team, or how are we going to respond to those circumstances? Because honestly, we did not even know how to pace ourselves in the beginning, because we had never adventure raced before. So I would say, having done it after the first time, now we know how to do it better. But going into it for the first time, honestly, we absolutely were like not sure about how to go with it. We, as a team, it was the first time we were coming together, and our whole motive was to stick together as a team and not fall apart and just take one step at a time, like really, because it's very different, right? Because like all our climbing adventures and pursuits, it has been a very different domain altogether. We go with such strong preparation and mindfulness of, the time it takes to summit a peak, for instance. So we do a lot of like backhand research for it, right? So let's say, for instance, we are climbing Denali, North America. Now we know how many days we have in hand for the permits that we do get for the region for climbing. And we pace ourselves accordingly. Let's say we have 2 weeks on the mountain. We know what camp to ascend to and when to come back and when to return from the summit of a peak. But in this case, we truly did not anticipate the legs. And it just got, like from relatively easier to harder. And then there was no looking back. Like, I mean, it was just, the graph just kept going up. I was like, will there be a moment where it levels out? And turns out it didn't, because it just kept getting brutal and brutal. And for us, we just knew one thing, and that is that we need to give it 100%. It didn't matter where we were, where we were physically, mentally, emotionally. But the one thing that all four of us were determined to do is to give it 100% and just go with the flow. Like we didn't even, because there was so much at stake. We were representing a team that, India, first South Asian team on Eco Challenge. So obviously there was a lot of pressure in terms of completing the race.
and getting to a point which is not disappointing, because obviously now you're trying to make a statement with the first, adventure race. So for us, that was, we never really understood the race. In fact, we were trying to understand what it takes to go an adventure race of that magnitude, of that level. It's just incredible what we pulled off.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And I mean, I guess for you saying that you don't remember parts of it kind of being zombie-like, I mean, I didn't really come across, because you were still, both being funny and just, it was very humbling to watch you. It's kind of surprising for me hearing you say that, because you seemed so with it and just kind of making jokes and just being fun the whole way through. So how does that make you feel watching it back?
Okay, so to put it in perspective, 24 hours for 10 days. So you can imagine like how much of the off-screen drama they didn't highlight throughout the Eco Challenge, right? There's a lot that's happening. The bad part, they move out, right? The fun parts,
for
they
you,
put it out
maybe.
there.
I think some people, us, maybe some people are like, hey, you didn't put any good in. It was all bad about me.
Right. So for us, I mean, I think for sure, like we were, oh my God, we were beaten. There were times like Tashi was paddle boarding for the first time. And there were some sections, on that river where our hearts were in our hands, like our lungs came out. Like we were breathless. She had tears in her eyes. It was really dramatic. I mean, what you're going through, when you get 4 hours of sleep in 4 days, or, you have a blistered mouth because you can't eat enough because of the exhaustion level. It would be unfair to describe Eco Challenge in words, because you go through a lot more in terms of emotions. And, for us, whatever was highlighted on Eco Challenge kind of makes us feel good about it post-challenge, because we definitely had PTSD when we came home. 2 weeks of like literally nightmares, 2 weeks of nightmares, of like almost like dreams that made you feel like you were on the race course, like you had to get somewhere before the stopwatch ended. So you were like, oh, okay, maybe I'm still on the course. But it was definitely one of the toughest things we've done in our life. And which is why this has also been a hugely transformational journey for the two of us. We've taken a lot of interesting lessons from Eco Challenge, and even to work in a completely new environment with two other folks who we had not spent a lot of time with, but kind of convened together before the race and made it a fun, enjoyable experience. Because at the end of all of this, the one thing that you take away is memories of sharing a good laugh, or, crying on a paddleboard, or cursing each other for something stupid we did. So these memories will stay strong for the rest of our life. But one of the toughest things we've done, for sure.
Yes. I mean, it's so interesting hearing that. And with the cameras being there, did you feel a pressure of I've got to put my best out, or do you get to a point where you're so exhausted that you just can't care anymore?
Yeah, we don't care.
I think the world's toughest race does not even allow you to even focus on anything apart from just being on the race obstacle and actually overcoming those challenges. Because I know there were times when we absolutely didn't even realize there were cameramen with us who were shooting us, because we were so focused and so determined in the next checkpoint and the next obstacle that it didn't really there were times that I felt sorry that the cameraman had to go through that as well, because it was not easy. They were running with heavy equipments, and it's not easy to shoot what we were going through, let alone just competing in the race. So I know it was a lot, but that did not actually bother us from competing and being ourselves during the race, and really just going with the flow. Because honestly, I think we were also worried about the physical damage that the body was going through, and trying to really recoup from all that at the same time. So we were absolutely not fazed. But I think, there were times when you would obviously get frustrated sometimes, because you would see these cameramen go ahead of you, like past you, and you're just like, oh my gosh, if only I had the energy to, run that fast or go past those cameramen, But overall, it was a great experience. I mean, this was the first time actually that we have been showcased in such a global, platform. And it was kind of nice to be able to undertake this journey with so many other incredible athletes from around the world. And honestly, we weren't fazed about the camera guys at all. Like, we were so happy.
So you didn't.
It's just very natural.
It didn't cross your mind of worrying, like you said, they portrayed mostly good with you, but was there any part of you thinking like, God, I hope they don't make me into they don't cut me into some kind of like evil monster who is, did any part of you worry about that or not?
No, actually, we weren't even sure what to expect out of the race. Like, how much of the coverage were we going to get on the show? Because number one, of course, it was about highlighting some of the stories, unique stories, and especially women athletes. I mean, if you look at the Eco Challenge race, there were so many women athletes that were highlighted throughout the race. Some team captains. It's just inspiring because often or not, when you think of adventures or extreme races such as Eco Challenge, you tend to picture a manly figure. You don't think of women instantly, but with Eco Challenge, things were different. So we weren't even sure what parts of our twin rivalry would be showcased, on Eco Challenge. They did a good job. I mean, I must compliment all those folks. So they kind of like omitted all the twin drama that happened. We were at the throat of each other. There were moments like we couldn't stand each other, and we would have probably pushed each other off the billy or the canoe. But I mean, when we did go through the whole episode, we were like, overall, it just makes you feel good about having done the Eco Challenge and not
really cool.
regret even one bit.
That's good. So you knew that, so they kind of selected before who they were going to follow. And so you knew you were going to have camera crew with you. And was this kind of a rotating set of cameramen who did like certain stretches with you? How did that work?
I think most of it was shot while we were on the course without anybody following us or being with us, like especially the long...
Oh, they just have people placed?
Yeah. Well, okay. Like when we were given for instance, they charted some of the stories that they were going to highlight, which is why we had the microphone and everything, which made it also very difficult while we were competing because you had a set with you at all times. But having said that, most of our recordings were perhaps done when there was no camera crew as such, but there were just cameras placed all across Fijian landscape that would capture some of those moments, and we were given a thing to now come on camera and say something, or a cue to kind of say something. But we weren't sure which aspect of our journey would be highlighted during the eco race. Because I mean, it's hard to predict, what makes it finally in the editing cut. It really depends.
I mean, we were given a camera person who was with us through and through, and I know they were to actually.
So that one person the whole way?
Yeah.
So that person went the entire way with you?
Yeah, but not the whole section of the course. Like it was partly, let's say, the bike section or the running or the trekking section. So it was just in parts. But then he was with us through and through in the sense that he was covering our team. So he would always be there to like shoot us while we were mountain biking or, trekking or getting our activities done for the day. So we had like a full time.
I'm sure every team that was on Eco Challenge had like a dedicated camera crew who would shoot them for that particular stretch and the next leg in different sections.
Because they wouldn't come in the water. I think the most of the water sections were shot on helicopters and like the other means of capturing the shots. But it was more the ones that were more accessible. That's when we had the camera rolling, like especially the highlands where you saw all the teams come together. That was the section where most of the team camera crews came together and they were shooting us through the whole highland section. So it was parts by parts, but like one camera for the team.
Incredible crew.
Incredible, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive and pretty cool. Okay, so let's go into the questions I'm going to ask everyone, or have asked everyone. So were there any moments that you didn't think your team was going to make it? I can't remember who hit your chin. Who hit?
Oh, Tashi.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
And actually,
was that a moment where you thought this could be the end?
Actually, I did, because that was the point when I knew that I had got a cut in my chin and it was bleeding, and actually it needed a stitch. But then I also knew that if I say yes to quitting, then all my team members would be okay with us quitting. So there was a lot of pressure on me, to be honest, because I knew I was struggling with that, but I knew that if I was to quit, then the entire team has to quit. So I don't know what happened, but physically when I was trying to give up, I just felt like that something within rose to continue to inspire me to just move on, and that's when I realized that this could have been the end of it, because everybody was looking at me with concern, and I knew the next camp was, beyond the waterfall and the swimming section. So obviously we weren't going to get there immediately. But that was not the I would say, the most difficult point in our course where we were like willing to drop. I think it was the swimming section, I guess, like where we had to cross that lake. And honestly, I think we were so close to calling it off. Like, I remember 4 of us standing and really like the team members talking, and we were like, okay, we're not doing this without a flotation device. Plus, we just were so scared of the water, and then we felt like we were going to drown, because the 3 of us, except Brandon, who was the 4th member, we thought we weren't very good with swimming. And that's also because, we've experienced something in the past that wasn't very great. Like, there was one time when Nash and I thought we could swim and ended up in a scenario where we had to cross a lake with some of our friends. And this was while we were in Vermont, actually. So we tried to cross that lake, but then we started panicking because we felt like we didn't have the energy to move on. And then you start imagining that there's something underwater, something is going to drag you down because you're in a very desperate moment. Oh, yeah. And when you think you can't move any further, you start imagining creatures, like crocodiles and I don't know what now. Even if they don't exist there, you just paint a picture, And we started to panic, and there was a moment that we almost drowned. Yeah. And some of our friends who spotted our hands, they came to our rescue. Yeah. But if that didn't happen, we would obviously not be here today. But because it happened the way it did, we are just like absolutely terrified of the water. So we just swam, but we doggy paddled the whole lake section. And I know the camera crew was like quite aghast with what we were doing, because we actually were trying to swim. We didn't even know if we were confident in going through that section. So that was the moment where our team actually felt like this was it. And
that was pretty early, wasn't it?
No, it was much later in the course, actually. And this is the funny part, because we're like, it would suck not to make it to the climbing rocks, because we just wanted to experience that fall. The cascade was beautiful, and we knew that climbing and traversing through that section would be mind blowing and something that we didn't want to miss out. So we're like, no matter what happens, but if we do have to quit, it'll all have to be after the climbing section, because we would be bummed to have not done that, as all 4 of us were mountaineers, we were climbers. So we're like, this is one thing we have to get out of the bucket, So
yeah. And so the second swimming part at the top, after the Vua Falls, was that okay because you'd been through the other bit, or that just wasn't as?
I guess that was the one that took a lot.
Oh, that was the one you were referring to.
Above the Vua Falls, yeah. Because we hadn't.
So the cold as well.
It wasn't, so I don't think we were phased about the cold factor, because my sister and I, we do very good with like cold. Like even in the altitudes, we find like our body easily adjusts to the cold environment. For us, it was about this whole fear of the water and not being able to make it to the next section of the leg of the water, because what if something went wrong in the middle? So we literally were trying to stay closer to the bushes that were on the side, so that even if there was a chance for us to drown, we could grab onto something and really not die, So there was a lot of fear in that section, but it wasn't really the cold that bothered us. It was more about not being able to make it past that lake section. And I don't know. And I think all 4 of us knew that we will perhaps only give up when our bodies do. Like, we will continue till one of us drops and it is the end of our team. Until then, I think none of us were in a position to kind of quit. We all were quite determined souls, and because it was our very first, any further we went on the race course was like a gift to our team, because we were like, this is incredible what we've been able to pull through.
Cool. And then the hardest moment as a team as a whole, you would say that was it as well?
There were a couple, actually. There were a couple. There were a couple of, I think, I guess the name just justice to the whole race. Like, there was a reason why it was called the world's toughest race, because there were so many sections on the race where we just felt like this was so hard even to overcome that as a team. Like, especially the section where I think it was our team and a couple of other teams during the rains, when it had rained, and that leg where we had to pull our bikes up the slope with all the slush. Oh my gosh, that was so hard. Like, we were so at the edge of our like physical, mental being, like literally everything. And a lot of teams were there because it was one of the most, daunting, phases of Eco Challenge. And we're like, are things getting any better? And, there's no call for help. I mean, if you do call for help, then, your team is technically out. So you have to bear all of that yourself. And one thing you don't want to make some nav errors, some places, and we lost quite a lot of time, and we felt really bummed about it. So we're putting ourselves already through so much, and now additional challenge of hiking so much more distance again, or paddling, whatever kilometers lost again, was quite depressing. Any error we made it was a dampener in our dream to keep going. So,
and that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that mountain biking section definitely came across as the toughest part for many teams. And even though it hasn't come out yet, my episode with James Lawrence from Iron Cowboy, he said that was by far his toughest part. And I'm sure that will be, as I continue these recordings or the other episodes people will be hearing, that will be the one that comes up over and over, because definitely didn't seem fun in any way. So going into this, what was your greatest fear?
Going into the Eco Challenge? I would say quite easily the water section in general, so the ocean leg. Like, we are terrified, like I said, of the ocean. And, we start imagining sharks coming at us, and with no prior experience of any of the water sports, on top of it, to do hydrographic navigation was quite the ultimate bummer. It was just all these bunch of things that we'd never done before. Like my sister said, never done paddle boarding in my life, and having to do that during the race, I was beginning to understand how to even paddle this thing. That was my part of the Eco Challenge. I was like, wow, this is exciting, because now I'm learning a new skill during the race, which is, and then on top of that, I had to master it, because obviously you have to continue with the race. So there was a lot of moments, but definitely the
for me, it was also, I think, genuinely for all four of us to have, said yes to Eco Challenge as being the first adventure race. For me, I was quite fearful of our physical state at the end of it all, or at the beginning. I just didn't want something dramatic to happen to either of us, and especially, as Indians, I don't know how many people know this, but we don't have a systemic support for major injuries or things that might go wrong, and we have to bear the burden of such drastic things that happen to our bodies. So for me, getting into Eco Challenge as the first rookie teams, as one of the many rookie teams that were there, we were just too worried about each other's well-being. And I was quite fearful of that, because I was like, on one hand, you have convinced everybody to be part of this epic adventure, but the truth is you're going to put yourself through such gnarly sections on the course, and you have to endure that through and through. So I was quite, and there are things that we heard from previous athletes about Fiji, talking about flesh-eating bacteria that they never understood or entirely understood what and where it came from. So I was really worried about encountering some of that, because when you have a bug that infects you and you don't know if there is a remedy or there's a cure to it, then you're stressed. You're just this can't happen to me. So when I heard of all those things that could go wrong during the course, I was like, I am quite fearful that, one of us might come back with some crazy injuries, and that wasn't going to be okay.
Yeah, I think actually that's probably what I think about of doing something like that. I think about, those unknown things, and that when people talk about the jungle foot, I just I'm like, ugh, the idea of that happening, that's what puts me off, not so much the or trench foot. Not so much the challenges themselves, but things like that happening. Okay, and finally, when you watched it back, I'm assuming you have watched it back, which you said you had actually, which team inspired you the most watching it? Which other team watching it back?
Which other team?
Yeah. Oh, man, I think... it's interesting you ask that, because when we were racing, we really got to know so many other teams as well. And there were so many competitors on the race. So I'm sure, we were inspired by a lot of stories, to be honest. And if you were to name them, I think we'll have to write a book on who all were an inspiration, because there were so many. But definitely, I think the ones that, that were showcased too. Travis and Mark, being father, son, going on this adventure, what a beautiful journey, having to spend that when obviously you have, grown up with your dad, and then to have to adventure race with him. It's such a privilege, So that was really interesting. And obviously our favorite Able Labels, they were the ones with the father and daughters. They had some great adventure going on, and we kind of related with them, because it was almost like my sister and I having to go through the same sort of trauma of being together on the course and being sisters, and knowing the fact that you're sisters and you're going to go through this. So definitely that. And I don't know who was for you, but these were my main. And even Emma's team, what was that team? Team Summit, I think it was. They were pretty inspirational as well. Having a woman captain in their team as well, she took the role very beautifully, and she was able to keep the whole team together, which was commendable. And it's what I think it's the teamwork definitely makes the dream work. So I think everybody did really well out there, and there were so many other teams, man. I think I really need time to write about all that, because I think there was so many.
Yeah. And you're not the first person to say that either. I've heard that quite a lot, that, you know, it's the untold stories that are actually the people that were around you are pretty inspiring as well. Okay. Yeah. So is there, if people are going to follow you and find you, is there a place that you would recommend they go to learn more about you, to find you in the future?
Yeah, we do have a website. We have a website called nungshitashi.com, and that's by our names. But we have just gotten into social media a lot more. So Instagram is a great way just to directly connect. You know, we try our best to reply to everyone. It's a lot more than we expected, because then you have a bunch of people writing to you. But I try to do my best. And my sister is not tech friendly at all.
Yeah, so it's a different story that our accounts always get hacked, because we are so profound in our digital arena that people end up hacking our accounts, and then we have to redo everything again. We are quite popular that way. I mean, everybody's eyeing our social media accounts. No joke. But that's, I think, nungshitashi.com. I mean, it's going through a series of like revamping and rechanging.
But easier is like Instagram, Facebook, where people could reach out. You know, we directly reply. So that's kind
of. What's a Facebook thing? Is it
Facebook? Is just Tashi and Nungshi.
You know, the biggest debate in our life about social media handles is
who goes first.
Yeah, who goes first? Is it Tashi or Nungshi? I'm the oldest by 21 minutes. And I don't know why I eventually feature behind Tashi at times. They say that Tashi is an easier name, and that's why we keep Tashi and Nungshi.
But on Twitter, it's Nungshi Tashi. So what are you faced about?
Like, yeah, I'm just saying that that's the biggest dilemma.
It's funny, actually, you say that, because I've noticed that you have been talking first most of this interview, but then in the show, you kind of said, I don't know how Tashi ended up team captain. So I felt that was kind of you getting your, you know, I'm going to take charge this time and I'm going to speak first. I did notice that. I was thinking that during this episode.
I think we'll have to compete again just so my sister can become the team captain, so that she doesn't blame me for the rest of my life, like, Tash, why we be the team captain.
Did you apply again for the next one?
Oh, yes, we did. We actually, you'll be surprised. We weren't going to apply because of the COVID situation right now. Like, we've been home since March. Yeah. And not many people know, but we can't even go outside and train. Like, we can't even do any water sport activity because we don't have the services running or anything like that. So it was a definite that we weren't going to apply. But when we heard it's Patagonia, my goodness, we just lost it. We're like, forget Corona. We don't even know this pandemic exists. Like,
so Tash and I have done some climbs in Patagonia, like barely, like you can call them hills, whatever. But it's a beautiful region. And part of our mission, which was to do the 4 ice cap, which never happened because of lack of funds. But one of the biggest thing was to do the Patagonia ice cap. It's dramatic and it's beautiful, and it's got such interesting, range of weather patterns, which we kind of love experimenting with. So Patagonia had to be on our list, even though we think of fingers crossed experience fertilizers. Yeah.
Yes. Well, fingers crossed for you. And thank you both so much. I have just thoroughly enjoyed this hour so much, and I appreciate you and all that you do. And thank you for continuing to inspire young women and girls. It's really amazing.
It was such a pleasure to connect with you too, Tina. You made it such a fun interview, and we couldn't be more thrilled.
My friends, if you have a minute and you could leave a review on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, Stitcher, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or whatever else podcast player you use to listen to this podcast, or if you would subscribe to this podcast, you will help me get out in front of new runners to make our tribe even bigger and even better. It might not seem like you as one person can make a difference, but really it helps a lot. And it shows me you appreciate the hard work I put in for those. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Nungshi and Tash for coming on this show. I loved getting to know them. I hope to go see them someday in India, and I hope many of you can watch them in whatever they are doing in the future, because I am sure they have plenty that they will be doing that will inspire us, inspire women, inspire girls from all over the world. It's going to be really exciting to go watch. If you want to learn more about them, to get the links in the show notes, or you can also go get that special discount offer from Athletic Greens to give you a 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2. You can go to athleticgreens.com/Tina, or you can go to the show notes at tinamuir.com/episode 213. Now on Friday, I am excited that we are having Darren O'Lean come on the show. Darren was the co-host of the #1 hit Netflix show Down to Earth, where he traveled around as the co-host with Zac Efron. And this is just a very empowering episode. I'm thrilled we were able to get Darren on the show, and I cannot wait to share this one with you. So if you haven't already subscribed, go do that. And thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on Friday.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.